I would like to welcome Sanjeev Oja from
So, am I audible? Yeah. First, good morning to all of you. I need to be closer. Okay. First, thanks, Vinay. Great session. I think you touch base some of my, not my, but zero trust topics. So, before I start, I really want to thank Why Not IM community for bringing us together. It's really great to be part of this community. Thank you, Ravi and co. You guys are doing great job. I don't think so there was any such forum before in India. There are few, but obviously not like how we have today, where we are specifically talking about IAM. So thank you, Why Not IAM team. Keep it up. I'm sure you guys will grow further. Fine. So coming back to the topic, zero trust. I think in last couple of years, that has become really popular, and many people says that it's just a buzzword or whether it's really possible to implement. Now, what I feel, zero trust is not a product or capability, it's a framework or strategy where you need to build that strategy keeping in mind where you are currently today and where you want to reach. Next slide, please. Now, earlier, let's first understand why we need zero trust before we jump into the zero trust actually. What used to happen earlier, the security was restricted within the office environment or traditional perimeter security, what we call. Every access and control that was governed within the office network or traditional network. Now the boundaries has been changed actually. People are working from everywhere. They are working from home, they are working from office, they are working from beach. Some of you will be working from here. Next thing is cloud adoption. Cloud has definitely changed the dynamics, the way we work today. Now you have application, you have data, you have identities all over spreaded. That means you have on-prem, you have on the cloud. Next thing is compliance, regulatory compliance. Earlier it was just a checkmark exercise, but now every organization needs to follow the compliances, whether it's GDPR, whether it's HIPAA for healthcare, you talk about SOX for public companies, or ISO, NIST, any of those compliances. Every company needs to now comply with the compliances. And those also becoming mature as we are growing in terms of security postures and security strategy. Similarly, compliance is also becoming mature. And the last one is threat actors. They are the most intelligent one, I would say, and that's the reason we keep evolving ourselves. Threat actors become more sophisticated, more advanced, and the traditional security strategies, I don't think so they are really enough to protect them or basically to restrict them to create any breach or anything else. So these are the key drivers why we really need zero trust strategy. Like I mentioned in the beginning, traditional security not able to serve in the today's environment because of all these reasons. And that's the reason zero trust has become a key driver in today's world. Next slide, please. Okay, now jumping into the what is zero trust. So it's a simple principle. Never trust, always verify. That means, let's break it down further. That means any access is verified, device posture is checked, and you are taking intelligent decision at the end to give the least privilege access. These are the core principle of zero trust, I would say. Next slide, please. Okay, so now breaking further zero trust, what all are the core principles of zero trust? First one is verify explicitly. That means you are verifying every access, every device, and continuously monitoring them. If there is any change happens, you again re-verify that identity. What used to happen, earlier we were working or we were adopting the approach of implicit trust basically, where for example, we know someone is my colleague, then they will be automatically given certain level of access without checking their identity or access again. But in the world of zero trust, we don't trust anyone, and we verify them explicitly for every access. Next one is use least privilege. That means allow only the access that is required to access that resources. Underneath this, there are many other, I would say, technologies that you can implement. Some of them Vinay touch-based, zero standing privilege, just-in-time access, just enough access. These strategies ensure the right user has only required access what they need actually. Now, third one is assume breach. So what happens when there is a breach? We minimize the radius. We make sure we have incident response plans, and we apply strict security controls. Now, in this same way, when you assume breach, you ensure that your security controls are more stricter and they are more refined. So that's the reason we should always consider that assume breach situation so that everyone is aware and then working on the protecting the systems basically. Next slide. Talking about pillar of zero trust. Obviously, first one is zero trust identity that we have already talked about. Regular and continuous verification or I would say authentication, authorization and continuous monitoring. So that's come under the zero trust identity. Moving to next, zero trust device. That means every device that is accessing corporate network, that basically device posture management has been checked. Device has all the latest patches. They have all the security control applied. Because nowadays we just don't only use corporate devices. We use our mobile phones for corporate work. We use laptop. We use endpoints from different places. So device posture management is really key. Third one is network, zero trust network. When we talk about zero trust network, again, some of the point Vinay touched over here as well. You need to do the micro segmentation. You create software defined network. Basically, you implement SASE network. And under SASE, there are many things comes in like secure web gateway, cloud entitlement manager, network as a service, cloud security posture management. So all those things. And fourth pillar is basically application, zero trust application. So zero trust application is something where you build the application from the scratch by considering the security in mind. That means only right user has access to right application. secure coding, and you are always ensuring that proper governance has been placed on all the applications. And last one is the data, and that's the heart. Everything that we talked so far, that's basically to protect the data. So in the zero trust data, protection of data, wherever it is the key principle basically. Define data policies like data classification, data labeling, data sensitivity, and ensuring whether data at rest or in transit, in every situation, data is protected. So on top of these 5 pillars, you apply governance and ensure that your zero trust journey continues across all these platforms. When you will be searching zero trust on the web, you might find 7 pillars, some call 4 pillars, but some of the infrastructure layer is already inside the application and network side of the world. So depending, but all those concept basically covers the same thing, how you can achieve the zero trust in your organization. Next slide, please. Okay, so this one talks about the benefit of zero trust. Again, obviously, enhanced security, reduction in risk, operational efficiency, greater flexibility, and regulatory compliance, most important one. And that's where actually identity security started. Otherwise, few years back when I started identity, nobody was looking identity that seriously. Now it has become the forefront of any conversation. Next slide, please. So this slide talk about how to implement zero trust. Obviously, you need to do the zero trust assessment, understand your maturity level, where you are today, and build a phase-wise approach where whichever industry you are, whichever compliance that you need to follow, accordingly build your specific catered plan and then build your strategy on top of it and apply the zero trust principle whichever applies to your organization. Next one, please. In the end, what zero trust enable you? The right people have the right access and privilege on the right resources for the right reason at the right time. So that's the core of everything. Whatever we do in identity, this is the mantra that everyone want to achieve basically, where they really want to ensure they have full visibility on their identity life cycle. Yeah, I think that's about it. If you guys have any question, please feel free to ask. So zero standing privilege means you don't have privilege assigned. You have identity, but privilege will be assigned dynamically. That means when you are accessing resources, at the same time your privileges will be assigned, and as soon as you finish your work, your privilege will be revoked. So that's the concept, and that's really important. So when you talk about built-in account, administrator on Windows, root on Linux, these are persistent account. We cannot really remove at this stage, but in the future, zero standing privilege is the way forward to manage the identities.
Thank you. Any other question? Yeah.
Hi. Just a general question on implementing zero trust. How easy or hard would you say it is where an organization has a lot of legacy, a lot of standing privileges, weak controls? You know, if you had to go on a journey to implement zero trust, you know, how challenging is it to achieve that goal?
Yeah, so I lead zero trust practice as well, and we do a lot of zero trust assessment for many customers. We obviously start with assessment. To answer your question, how easy or difficult, it depends on organization, where they are currently, and how much, obviously, appetite that they have, they want to mature their environment. In the assessment, we understand whether they are at level 1, level 2, level 3, or level 4. And after the assessment, we give them the report, and that report also has the recommendation which talks about, for example, you need to apply strong MFA solution. You need to have the privilege access management solution. You need to manage your non-human identities. So every part of the identity security, all those 5 pillars, we assess on those pillars. Everything that we touch base today, it is just very high level. There is lot underneath it actually when we assess each pillar, and then based on that we come up with the maturity report, and then we build the strategic plan and recommend customer to follow that plan if they really want to achieve the zero trust journey. But it's really difficult, to be honest, because after the assessment also buying from management and obviously investment, it's a huge if you really want to do it actually. Yeah, so it's not like you apply zero trust today and tomorrow you will be like having zero trust. It is going to take at least 2 to 5 years of time from now, and then obviously as the technology is evolving, by that time you will have something new to implement. Yeah.
So, if an organization has, the MFA implemented and MFA enforced at multiple different levels,
Hmm.
right? So, can we say that so they have achieved the level 5 of
No, definitely not. MFA is just your starting layer of authentication and authorization, right? It's just making sure you have that entry point within the corporate system. But beyond that, everything that we talked about, whether it's data, whether it's network, whether it's devices, or anything else, that everything you need to ensure is zero trust. Then
enforcement points. So, if we say that we have the multiple enforcement points at this application data and identity, right? And devices, of course, right? Can we say that they are at the level 5 maturity?
depends if they have all the controls in place, right? So MFA is, like I mentioned, just an initial control for your authentication. And after authentication also there are a lot of things goes inside, right? For example, NHI thing. There also you need to achieve zero trust. Zero trust means everywhere you are ensuring that every access is verified and then obviously monitored all the time. And as soon as the context changes, you again re-verification applies actually.